day so far. Can't believe we are midway through the week already. So today I'm super excited to be joined by Daria. Daria, welcome to the podcast, the Talk Your Business Growth podcast. Super excited to have you. We're very grateful for you taking your time out of the day to join us today. Now, I always say when I do these that I never give people enough justice in terms of giving an introduction to them. I'm not like Devon that does all our big events and does really big intros. So what I'd love you to do, if you don't mind, tell everyone a bit about your background, and then let's move on to why you joined us today and what we're going to help people with.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm so grateful that you all are here. My name is Daria Chaffone, and I am on my 11th year of being a director of a childcare center. And I have, when I say every role, have had every role all the way from an intern to a director. So I started when I was very young, at the age of 19 in college, being placed as an intern in an early childhood space with infants and toddlers. Okay. And I was an intern, a toddler teacher, a preschool teacher, an assistant director, a summer camp director. And at the age of 23, I was promoted to a director. So do the math, 11 years later, and here I am on my 11th year leading and supervising an early childhood privately owned school here in Westchester County, New York. It is a labor of love, and through all of my years of experience, I understand how much love is required to put into yourself as the educator, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Love that. So tell us a little bit about the center, if you don't mind. First of all, give us a quick intro, what it's like, family run, corporate, etc. Just give us, you've touched on it briefly there. Tell us a little bit more about the center, just to give us a quick overview.
So I have worked for a variety of different schools. Where I started, I worked for a childcare center that was actually connected to a college campus, because it was that was where they did their internships and got their teachers on their feet. And then I worked for 3 privately owned childcare centers since then. So right now I am working for a large for-profit childcare center that's privately owned. Our capacity is 128 children, and the most children that I've had in my school was 120.
Nice. Awesome. So one of the big topics obviously is all around work-life balance, burnout, avoiding that. And what I like about obviously bringing you guys on here to talk about this is that this whole concept around you're coming at this from a director's perspective, but also you understand from the perspective of the owner side, because obviously you work with the owners, but you also work with the teachers. So you get to kind of see both sides of this. So I'm really excited for you to talk about and tell us a little bit around, you know, your experiences and what you found, your kind of recommendations around what work-life balance should be. So I'm going to pass over to you, and then hopefully I'll ask some questions as we go as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nick. So I honestly feel that speaking from a teacher perspective first is really, really informative here, because I always say to my teachers that I can bring the enrollment in, but you guys are the ones that keep them, right? Mm-hmm. So the teachers are the ones that are hands-on, performing the labor of love that we all are here to do on a daily basis. And you guys are the ones that are really exerting your energy all day with these young little minds that you are teaching and nurturing throughout the day. So it's really important to actually be introspective and pay attention to yourself and realize that taking care of you is also equally as important.
Totally.
So coming in on low sleep, or coming in when you are under the weather, or, you know, even if you're not mentally well, right? You have to understand that there are days off, sick days, vacation days for a reason. And if you're anyone like me, which I'm guilty of this for my entire career, I never took my days off. That it would be coming to my anniversary of when my year would be coming back up again, and I would have all of my vacation days, and my boss would look at me and say, "You need to take your days off." He said to me in all of my years, I can't tell you how many times that was said to me. So being introspective, as I mentioned, and just kind of understanding when you're exhausted, when you feel like you're getting sick, right? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. I say that all the time. If you are not full and you're not all the way there, you're not going to be able to perform at your best. So making sure that you're prioritizing your own well-being, and that you're making sure that you're sleeping well, that you're taking care of your overall health, that you're doing things that you actually enjoy on those days that you're resting, not just, you know, sleeping for a day to be well to come back to work the next day, but reading a book or taking a walk or doing something that will actually fuel you personally will be extremely helpful and beneficial for your actual performance in the classroom.
I love that. So being someone then that came from a background of not taking time off, How did you start to identify that? Have you also noticed a difference as well since you've started to take time off? Are you taking time off, or are you still in that situation where you're not right now?
So I'm going to share something that's really raw and honest with you guys. And one thing that really centered me and that really made me realize how important rest and recovery is was the pandemic. So going through a global national pandemic that we all experienced together in the early childhood space, I really honestly thought that there was going to be a time where I was going to lose my job indefinitely.
Okay.
And we were deemed essential here in New York, and we remained open. However, we went from 90 children to 5 children. So we had to furlough all of our staff, and I was one of the staff that stayed here to take care of the very minimal amount of enrollment that we had. And during my work and the time that I actually had, I realized that I was performing so much better while I was actually resting and I wasn't having such a heavy workload. Now, that's impossible to do when you have a fully enrolled school. So how do you do that now, right? So one of the tips that I had actually come across was about understanding to stay within the confines of the time that you are actually hired to work, right? So my hours are from 7 to 3:30.
Okay.
And it's very hard for me to walk out of the door at 3:30 if I have tasks or if I have somebody wanting to talk to me or I have a meeting to handle. But learning to advocate for yourself, learning how to trust and train or delegate to other people that are fully capable to maybe help you or assist you with your workload. Those are all different tools and tactics that you can use to be able to alleviate that stress that you're having on yourself. So it's really important to understand that you came in, you did your job, tomorrow's another day, and to learn to walk out and say, what am I going to do for myself now to become better prepared tomorrow?
That's interesting. And do you find that, coming from a director's perspective, a lot of directors out there, oh, my team want to leave bang on the time. They go on the hour, that's it. As soon as the time comes, they're out. I've seen both sides. I've seen some directors say, I can't believe someone's work attitude, they leave. But you're coming at this from a totally different perspective, that actually you encourage those team members to leave and to walk out the door to park. Have you seen both sides to that? And have you seen the impact that's made on the teachers too? Do you get more buy-in from the teachers because you do empathize more with them?
Absolutely. I think that in my center specifically, that we have created a culture of well-being. We're very grounded in well-being. So we've created a space for our staff to come and speak to us if they are experiencing something in their personal life without having to even give too much detail. If I look like I'm a little off today, it's because I'm dealing with something at home, or I didn't really sleep well last night. If there's extra staff today, if you could send me home early, that goes into advocating for yourself and speaking up. There's been times where myself as the director, I've been feeling like I'm getting sick or I'm under the weather, and I would tell my owner and my admin team that, if everything is calm and everything is good, I'm going to leave early so I can catch up on some rest. So we have created a culture here that we want our staff to feel comfortable to speak up for their needs that they need to make sure that they're well. Obviously, being honest and being transparent and being genuine is important. But on the other end of the spectrum, Nick, like you mentioned, then there's those people that are clock watchers, right?
Totally.
They are. It's my time. I have to go. Who's coming in for me? So I've never had that sort of mentality, and I think I model that as a director. So all of my directors out there, your staff are looking at your attendance, they're looking at your attitude, they're looking at the way you treat everybody, right? Because you are the face of the school and you're the head of the school. So for me, I ask my staff to come 10 minutes before their shift. I'm here 10 minutes before my shift. I'm not running out the door right at 3:30 if I'm having a conversation with a parent or there's something that I have to do. I'm not letting it impact me negatively, right? But I'm committed to my job. I do my job diligently while I'm here, and then I take my time to myself because I need it.
Nice. So you're basically not only advocating, you're demonstrating every single time exactly the kind of approach you take, but also what you want your team to take too. Well, there's obviously the other end of this spectrum here. There's those directors that literally will be there from open till close. And do you generally see, though, a big impact in terms of, if one of those directors is listening right now, what's your thought? What's your kind of advice to them? Because they're probably so used to it. They may have been doing this for the last 5 to 10 years, for example, just putting in as many hours as they can because they feel they have to. So from a director's perspective, how would you encourage them to approach that employee, or to whether it's a family run business or a corporate? What's your advice to someone at that level first? So let's look at the directors. How would you approach a conversation with them?
Well, first of all, if you're a director out there that's opening and closing and wearing a million hats a day, I just want to give you a hug because I know how that feels. So, virtual hug. Um, it is so important to understand that you're only one person, right? And if you're committed to early childhood and you're the director of a school, that means that you showed that you're capable of it and that your hands are capable of all of the job duties that being a director requires. So usually directors' names are on the license of the school, right? So essentially everything is going through you. Everything really, at the end of the day, everything is really trickling down from you at the top. So you feel almost guilty taking time off, or you feel almost like you're going to miss something important if you're not there for every minute of the day, right? But you have to also understand that that's why there's so much burnout in early childhood, is because people are not taking care of themselves. So the advice that I would give to a director would be to, again, like the thing I say to my staff, is to advocate for yourself, to speak to your CEO and say, hey, is there any way that we could maybe start training a teacher to maybe assist, to be like an assistant or get an assistant director, and you can split maybe opening and closing, or rotate your schedules throughout the week so that you have the opportunity to sleep in, leave early, and be able to alleviate some of the workload. So one of the things that I have on my list here is delegating tasks. Don't be afraid to delegate tasks to capable colleagues or assistants. Sharing responsibilities not only lightens your workload, but also helps develop teamwork and collaboration among your peers. Because as a director and as a teacher, anybody in this field, as a human being, you're going to get sick. Life is going to happen. You're going to have experiences that are going to require you to actually not be present at work. So knowing that you have a trusting team and people that can have your back while you're not there alleviates so much stress from your life.
Yeah, totally. And so do you find as well that the reason why people don't delegate is because they're worried of the fear of letting go? Is that maybe a big barrier for directors?
Yes, and it's something that I experienced very early on in my career and have learned to delegate to very capable people, because you have to know your people, right? You have to know that they're going to deliver it in the way that you would want it to be delivered. So that's why you have to choose who you're delegating it to. But control is also another thing too. It's a very person. I'm a type A person. I'm very organized. I like things done a certain way. I like things put in a certain place because it helps me to know when something pops up in our very busy days where everything goes, right? But the people that work with me know that I'm like that. And they laugh at me and we joke about it because that's just my personality and who I am. But you have to understand that under the umbrella of being a director, there are so many different things that you're responsible for, and you're only one person. So you have to kind of learn to, like I said, delegate. And even if it's small, minor things that you can say, like just taking this one task or this one responsibility off of your plate, it's going to lighten your load more than you'll really realize in the moment.
That's a good shout. And I think it's one of those things as well. It's a big thing to do. I remember one of the directors we had, and we always say to her, hey, you need to encourage people, you need to coach them, not tell them what to do. And the very next minute, she went into the room, a child fell over a chair, and she literally took control. Like, right, we need to move this, we need to do. And I just looked at her and smiled. She laughed because she didn't realize what she was doing. And it's hard. It's hard for those people to let go. You touch on a very important point there, personality types and how you deal with things, how you communicate. Do you feel that might be an issue right now, that there's maybe people don't understand the people they work with? They don't understand personality types as well as they should do. And that actually can affect those relationships too, and the trust and everything else.
So something that I did recently, which I think is very important for all owners and directors to consider, is I did a team building staff meeting with my staff, because we have 11 classrooms and my license is 6 weeks to 5-year-olds. And there's teachers that don't even really ever work or collaborate with one another unless it's like a day that they're, substituting in another classroom, something like that. So it's important for all of the staff to know one another and also take the time to learn each other as people and not just as coworkers, because that's a really key part of it. So for me, like I say, I know my personality type. I know that I can be obsessive compulsive, and I laugh about it and I'm honest about it because it's who I am. But it helps me to also be efficient with my job, right? So when I'm teaching and coaching, I have an assistant director and I have a curriculum coordinator too. And there's so many times where we collaborate in such a healthy way. And if there's something that I'm asking them to do, I actually have a binder that's called To Do Without Daria, and it actually shows you how to do things without me.
Nice.
But I'm a very hands-on learner myself, so I'm empathetic to that. So when I'm showing somebody something, I'm more walking them through it. Or another example is I have a surveillance system in my program, so I have cameras in my classrooms. And sometimes I'll see something that I may not really like that's going on in a classroom, and instead of me going in and dictating or saying what needs to be done, I'll start to model. I'll start to speak to the children in a certain way, or I'll start, bringing the energy in the classroom to sort of shift what's going on in the room. And then after, when it's a private in the office, I'll show them on the camera. I'll ask them, what is it that you're seeing here? And this is what I was doing by modeling and kind of coaching them through what my expectations are.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference, though, isn't it? There's coaching or telling. And I think we're far more open to obviously taking up all the coaching side and getting people to work out or feel like they're working it out for themselves rather than them actually being told what they do instead. So let's touch more around the owner's side now. So obviously there are different people listening to this. There'll be teachers, there'll be directors, there'll be owners. What's your advice to owners to encourage them to realize the importance of this, generally around work-life balance?
I think it's really important and my CEO actually, and her and I together have curated a program where we implemented, I spoke about this on the last segment that I did with you guys, was that vacation time, being able to help and step in if required, but also giving the autonomy to the director and your staff to run the program, right? So that's something that I always tell owners too, is to know sometimes as an owner, similarly to what we spoke about, is that you want that control as well because you're the owner of the program, right? But you have to also have your trusting director and your trusting teachers and your administrators, and open communication is really important. So being able to communicate daily about what's going on in the center, any concerns, what's going well, what's not going well. So I also think that it's important for owners to understand the level of energy that is required for this job. Like you have to really be an early childhood educator to see it through the lens and understand how much goes into what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And it's pretty much pouring ourselves into these young, beautiful children all day long that want our love, that want our energy, that want our language, they want us to pay attention to them, and then we're teaching them and caring for them at the same time. So there's so much that goes into it. So it's important as a CEO to understand and to be able to nurture your staff and give them the tools and the time to be able to take care of themselves.
Yeah, and I guess sometimes it's hard for the directors to kind of demonstrate that. How do you articulate, hey, I'm at this point right now where things are struggling, with stress, workloads overdue, etc. Things are slipping, reports are not being done, all those aspects. How do you as a director articulate that? Maybe let's take a scenario where you're working for a big corporate chain. In that scenario, how do you think someone should approach that type of relationship? Maybe they report into a regional director, for example. How would you approach that to make sure that it doesn't come across that you're looking as if you just can't cope with the workload? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think that that's something that's really important for all of our listeners, because if you're not even in early childhood, whatever field that you are in, it's so important to understand that empathy comes first. And if you're an empathetic and compassionate person and you're able to adequately communicate the dynamic of what's going on, then that's going to put you a step ahead, first of all. So if I were to call my CEO and say, a child got hurt today, we had to call the ambulance. I had to administer an EpiPen. I had a teacher and another teacher that needed a counseling and coaching meeting. And I know that I have X, Y, and Z due. Is it okay if I have an extension because this is all that happened today, right? I think that being real and just owning what your day is like and owning what you have to actually navigate through. And then the biggest thing for me is, and this is what I always say, and I tell my staff this, is priorities. So I always say to them, the children come first. Yeah. My teachers come second, the parents come third, and my paperwork comes fourth.
Nice.
There has to be a priority, a hierarchy of what's the most important for you and what you need to attend to first, because you know, as a director, your name is called 100 times a day. I tell people all the time, sometimes I get in my car after work and drive home with no music on, just no sound.
Just
my phone is on do not disturb. There's no music because the stimulation that goes through my head all day long from 6:45 in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon is a lot for one person, right? So being able to, like I said, delegate, communicate, and have a list of priorities and what you tend to first, and explain that to your owner, and make sure not only you're just explaining it to them, but that they actually trust your judgment and that they agree with you in the level of which you're doing those priorities.
I love that. That's very similar to the whole concept around Disney, that they empower all the team to go by those guiding principles, strategy. So I love the fact you've got that strategy there in place. I think that's really important and very empowering for you as a director as well, to be able to go, hey, I did this because this comes first, children first, teachers second, parents third, hey, love that. So let's move on. Let's talk about the last section is around the teacher side. What strategies would you give to teachers around how to deal with this work-life balance? So we talked about obviously owners understanding more, talked about directors and how to deal with that workload, and obviously empowering teachers. Are there any other tips or strategies you give to help teachers get more of that work-life balance?
So if you're anything like me, I don't think I've taken a lunch break in 10 years. I call it a working lunch. I have my food next to my computer. I'm hydrating and snacking and doing, you know, everything that I have to do with my brain power being used during my lunch break. And it's something that I should probably break out of. And I tell all of my teachers, I actually had to advocate for my staff. We have an empty classroom that I'm actually in right now. And it's used for, we have a soccer program. It's used for therapy sessions when children need therapy sessions. And it's also used for a place for teachers to come and eat lunch because we don't have a staff lounge. So we created a really nice space with a table and chairs and condiments and things for them to come and eat their food and heat up their food. And I encourage my staff to take your break. Leave the classroom, you know, don't lesson plan or prep for those 30 minutes that you have. Just give yourself, I call it a brain break. You need to take a brain break. So making sure that you're taking your break and that you're not working through your break. Because again, when I was a teacher, I would be decorating my door and cutting things out on my break and doing all of these things because I was always in that productive mode. So another perk that we offer to our staff, which I understand this cannot be done everywhere, is that my school is attached to a corporate building. And in the corporate building, there is a gym. So all of my staff have a free gym membership with a key fob to this private gym. So one thing that I have definitely adopted over the last couple of years is incorporating health and fitness and nutrition into my life. Because all of those things, you're around germs, you're around sick children, your immune system is something that has to be a priority for you as well, especially the teachers that are holding them and putting them to sleep and face-to-face with them throughout the day. So making sure that your health is on point, that you're exercising, you're putting healthy food in your body, that you're taking those brain breaks, and that you're trying to the best of your ability not to bring your work home, which is another thing that's super hard because our hearts are so invested and we care so much about these children and our jobs. But it's really important to punch out, clock out, and let yourself be an individual outside of your teacher role. As a teacher, you're going to perform so much better when you're prioritizing those breaks and that self-care and caring for yourself. If you're a toddler teacher, you probably don't need a gym membership because you're chasing after toddlers.
You're chasing your children around anyway.
But just your energy is needed, and it actually is a part of the requirement for the job because the children are going to demand that from you. So showing up as the best version of yourself and making sure you're caring for yourself as a teacher and taking your breaks and taking your time, taking your vacation, giving your administrator ample notice though for your vacation is important.
Yes, definitely.
But taking it for you and understanding that you are committed to a field where you are shaping the lives of our future of the world. And it's really the most underlooked profession out there. And it's so valuable. I say that we're superheroes without capes every day because we are. And parents are trusting you with their most valuable and prized person of their world, which is their child. So your job is is so important. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it at your best.
No, I love that. One last question, if you don't mind, I want to touch on it. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen the content, that Daria's already done some amazing content over in ECE Mastery. So for those of you that are active in that community, make sure you go and check it out. There's some great content over there. But one last question, Daria, if you don't mind, is around your team. Obviously, you manage a big team. What happens in terms of allowing those teams to come to you with problems, challenges, things they feel they need to be made aware of to you? Do you have a set process of how that's done, or is it continuously an open door policy? How does it work specifically for you?
Do you mean with their personal lives, like problems that they're having?
No, just generally things that are happening. For example, maybe a parent come in and said, "Hey, I've got a complaint. Little Johnny came home without shoes missing." Is there a certain threshold of things they bring to you, or do they bring every single thing to you? And how do you deal with that?
So I think that my teachers feel comfortable to speak with me about things because of the way that I handle it when they do approach me. So I'm going to give you an example of what happened this week, because it happens every week where something will happen in the school. I have a child where the parents are providing their meals. We have a chef that's on site that cooks for the children, and some children have allergies or dietary restrictions. So this family in particular provides the child's meals. And the teacher is saying that the portions are very small, and the child is saying that they're still hungry after the meals are being served. So in any event, this is an uncomfortable conversation for a teacher to have with a parent, right? Because this is the parent's judgment. This is what the parent is serving to the child. So the teacher came to me, and I actually would prefer them to come to me and feel valued that they come to me, because they respect my insight and my opinion. And the first thing that I ask them, because I want them to feel respected as a teacher, is, do you feel comfortable speaking to the parent, or would you like me to speak to the parent? Okay. So I let them make the decision, because I don't want to overstep them. And then I also don't want them to have an uncomfortable conversation if they're not prepared to do that. Totally. Right? So I have so many years of experience of having uncomfortable conversations with families about a plethora of things. So in that situation, I'm giving her the autonomy to choose whether she would like me to handle the conversation or for her. And she said, they're actually really nice family. I can put it in a way that, he's saying, I hungry, and that, we want to make sure that he's actually really hungry, or is he just learning his language? So giving them tools and tips to make it more of a positive conversation as well, it makes them feel like a weight lifted off their shoulders. Like, I can do this, and I just kind of needed your counseling. I said, sometimes you're with the child longer than they're with the child. So maybe they're not realizing they're growing, they're developing, they might be a little bit of a portion. So I definitely feel like being a welcoming presence and not seeming like agitated or irritated when your staff come to you for guidance, and giving them that warm, supportive response can go a long way.
Love that, because I think there's so many different perspectives around this. Some people have set times, some have end of day reporting, some have open door policy, and I think my biggest takeaway from what you've just said is that really depends on how you manage the center. Depends on your personality type. It depends on you take more of a coaching role. You're obviously trying to encourage your team to take on more responsibility and to empower them to make those decisions too. So I think it's a really valid opinion of the way you deal with it. And it's very interesting seeing how different directors have different ways of dealing with this. So I'm really interested to get your opinion on that too. Dara, any other last tips we want to give anyone, whether they are actually directors or owners, that you would want to end up with to wrap up the podcast?
So one thing to kind of piggyback off of what we were just talking about, and delegating and staff coming to you, and just from the director perspective, feeling like the world is on your shoulders because everybody comes to you. One thing that we do is we have areas. So I'm a director, I have an assistant director, and I have a curriculum coordinator. So depending on what the question or the concern is, depends on the person that you go to with the question or the concern. So your staff need to know what area is yours and what area your other colleagues are. So for example, my assistant does the payroll, she does the request for the time off, she does the schedule and the calendar for the staff to know who's off and appointments and things like that. That's not my role. So if the staff has a question about that, I'll say, you have to go talk to Stephanie. So my curriculum coordinator deals with the lesson plans and activities and buying supplies for the classrooms and orders and stuff for the classroom. So if they want to ask me, I need an area rug or a calendar, I'll say, you need to go speak to Miss Yasmiel. She's the person that does the curriculum stuff. So learning how to delegate and creating your role so that it's clear and concise for your staff, and also making sure your CEO is aligned with that too, is going to actually make it so much easier for you, because it's like you don't have to handle everything. There are other people that are capable, and hopefully you can find those people within your programs.
I love that. So there's total accountability. Everyone knows where to go, who's the person responsible. So there's no ambiguity around who is that main point of contact.
Right.
Daria, I love that. So tell everyone, if you don't mind, so you obviously work with different people, you do some consultancy work. Tell us who is the main person you're looking to help, and how do people get in contact with you? I know I've got your email that I'm going to share with everyone, but tell everyone, if you don't mind, who's the main type of individual that you help right now, and what you specifically help them with?
So there's a plethora of things that I would be able to offer consulting or coaching or guidance to any of teachers, directors, owners. I have done startup schools that have gotten licensed for the first time. I've done hiring, recruiting, training, overall coaching and morale of how to keep a positivity in the workplace environment and energy in your schools. Different things for infants and toddlers. Infants and toddlers are definitely my specialty, because I was actually a classroom teacher for infants and toddlers for a very, very long time, and did all of my internships with those age groups. I've worked for Mommy and Me classes. I've been a private nanny. So I've really just been so embedded and immersed in early childhood for my entire life. So anybody who has questions, needs motivation, needs help with licensing, questions like that. Obviously, I'm in New York, so that's a different sort of licensing depending on where you live. But I could definitely give you any consultation or guidance or coaching for any director, owner, or teacher, or any aspiring early childhood educator out there.
Love that. Daria, I am so grateful for you joining us today. For those of you that are watching the replay of this, make sure you show Daria some love. I put Daria's contact details down below as well. And as I said, if you haven't seen it yet, go and check out the great content that Daria's already done inside the ECE Mastery Program. There's some great stuff in there. And, make sure you reach out to Daria. She's going to give you a wealth of information, experience, guidance, coaching to really take you and your business to the next level. Daria, massive shout out from me, and I look forward. Have we booked in your next ECE session yet? Is that booked in the diary?
Not yet. Yeah.
I'm super excited. I'm looking forward to that one. So we'll look forward to dialing that topic in with you. But I'm super grateful for you joining us again today.
Me too. Thank you so much, Nick. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And if you are here and you are committed to early childhood, I'm so grateful for you, because you are doing the best work that there is out there. And thank you guys so much.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us.